2024 NFL free agency kicked off with a bang today. You're probably trying to figure out, what does all of this mean? Every running back under the sun signed in a new location, most of them unpredictable. We had no idea that these were going to be the spots for most of these players. Some new players got cut. Some players haven't been signed yet. What do we do with all of the new chaos that has happened in the fantasy football and best ball landscape? That is what we're going to figure out tonight. But first, all right, Rob, today was tiring. Today was a whirlwind of emotion. I feel like if people have been, I talk about this all the time. A lot of the times it ends up more like on the serious shows and stuff. But like this time of year used to be just like dynasty stuff. But I find it to be a really fun time of year because now it is. The dynasty people are still very, locked in and caring about today, but so are we now. We have tournaments that we're applying the stuff to that's going on in the offseason and rookies and free agents and all this different stuff. And today I felt like, I don't know about you, was maybe the most chaotic, like at least kickoff to NFL free agency. There's always, right, some stuff that happens that we don't predict or whatever, but it felt like almost every kind of landing spot for a big name free agent was a little bit shocking. Not like some of them were different levels of shocking compared to others. But also it was the fact that it's like all running backs. Like it's almost all running backs that I think adds this layer of what to do in your brain, because we're fighting this idea of new change and what do we do with this running back who looks better now or this running back who looks worse now, but also still fighting back on the, hey buddy, it's March, don't get carried away thinking that this running back's going to get 350 touches and all that kind of stuff. It just felt like total chaos. And I haven't finished updating the rankings just yet, but I found it to be one of the more difficult times of figuring out how to move guys around. But I think it was specifically because it's like all running backs and like all veteran running backs, of course, being free agents. So it was a kind of a bizarre first day of free agency for me.
Which is still happening, because I'm going to be honest, I was getting some stuff ready for the show. And as we were introing, I was just jumping back on Twitter to make sure I didn't miss anything. And
Yeah.
Ekeler signed with the Commanders in that 5 minutes that I was getting ready for the show.
I was walking the dog. Oh, by the way, you wanted to take a quick little break? Nope, too bad. Another news item drops.
Yeah, they just dropped. The bombs are just dropping. Like you said, it's the running back position. Mostly we got some more clarity in other spots too. Like this Kirk Cousins news, I think is gigantic. So we're going to break down all of that. I love today. You know why I love today? Because this is when you can still look at people whose fandom is just exactly what it's supposed to be. Fanatical. Like fandom is fanatical. People are insane. The Tiki Barber stuff's hilarious. Ship my money arguing with people on Twitter over Tiki Barber is made my day. People acting like Tiki Barber's opinion matters in the slightest on how he feels about Saquon Barkley kills me. But there's so much to break down, and it's going to be a lot, and we'll break it down here. And as we draft the team and implement some of this news into the teams. So do we want to start with this running back position? Because how can you not?
Absolutely. Right? So super quick housekeeping for anybody that has not joined us before. So that this is your first Spike Week live stream. What we'll try to do Mondays and Wednesdays, we're going to draft fantasy football. We're going to draft best ball teams pretty much year round. Rob is also drafting on Sunday mornings. So if you waking up, got your coffee on Sunday mornings, you can hang out and draft a team with Rob as well. But on Mondays and Wednesdays specifically, we'll try to do a fairly quick intro. Today, can be tough to keep it quick, but we'll try to do a kind of a quick intro of the latest news that has happened, but also your questions. So if you have specific questions that you would like to get answered, it's really easy. There's a link to the Discord, the Spike Week Discord. It's 100% free. It's in the description. You go there and there's a live streams and media channel. Within there, you can post questions. Post them whenever. A lot of people generally just post them the day of the shows, of course. But post your questions, and so long as there's not like 50 questions, we will get to all of them or as many of them as we can on the show. So we do have a couple of those today that we'll try to squeeze in as well. We might end up kind of touching on them, and I'll try to bring them up if we're touching on them as well during the conversation about the free agents. But today, I want to run through. We may not hit like absolutely every single free agent, but also, as Rob said, we're going to draft a team in 15, 20 minutes or something like that on Underdog tonight. So we'll talk about a lot of these things while we are drafting as well. But let's kick off. Yeah, let's kick off with the veteran running back free agents that have signed. And I'm actually curious what you think about this, but I thought the biggest news was actually there's probably two that we could go, but I'm actually going to side with the Josh Jacobs signing in Green Bay to kick us off, partially because I know you're more partial to Saquon, so we can't agree right off the bat. But I think it's solely because it was kind of two-pronged with Josh Jacobs. I'm not sure how many guesses you would have had to give me before I would have landed on the Packers for Josh Jacobs as the spot. I thought that was pretty shocking. Whereas like Saquon, it was a little surprising, but there was some rumblings about the Eagles and stuff so I didn't find it that surprising. Josh Jacobs to me on the Packers, like I said, I don't know if it was in my top, certainly not my top 5. I don't know if it would have been my top 10 of spots that I thought Josh Jacobs would land. So he lands in Green Bay, and then they cut Aaron Jones. So for those of you who have been watching us and been drafting with us, we may have drafted a couple Aaron Jones teams on stream, and we've drafted some Emanuel Wilson recently. You want to talk about a half hour of a roller coaster of Emanuel Wilson emotions? Well, it was oh no, we just wasted those Emanuel Wilson shares to oh no, we're back. We're back. It's all good. We're back. What did you think about the Josh Jacobs thing, and how are you feeling just about everything that is the trickle down effects of Josh Jacobs to Green Bay?
Yeah, I mean, I think we discussed that. We thought Green Bay would probably bring somebody in. I didn't think it was going to be like a Josh Jacobs name by any means, but I guess we should have followed the money, right? They wanted him to restructure. He wouldn't in terms of Aaron Jones. And when you start following the money, yeah, the Josh Jacob news makes more sense by the end of the fallout. It wasn't anything any of us saw coming, but connecting the dots with, you do the double take on Josh Jacobs, then you do the triple take when they release Aaron Jones. Emanuel Wilson is the one that comes out actually the best in all this in terms of best ball, because he's not going to rise up too much, I don't believe, based on people are still going to attach themselves to the Josh Jacobs name. I'm not saying that Josh Jacobs is like completely washed by any means, but I still think there's a role there for Emanuel Wilson, even with Josh Jacobs on the field, among the contingency value. So, like, am I going to draft Josh Jacobs? Probably not. Like, depending on where he ends up going, where he settles, I can't imagine I'll have a ton of Josh Jacobs shares. If he falls, then sure, because we like that offense, right? Like, we like the Packers offense. We saw what they're capable of doing, specifically in the back half of last year. Aaron Jones is still probably better than Josh Jacobs, though. So I don't know. I think I'll take some Jacobs, but I'm more excited for Emanuel Wilson. What does this mean for Aaron Jones? Where does he go? Because this is where you start to, is Aaron Jones going to go to Baltimore now? Is that something they didn't think was on the table? We've heard them talking about bigger names that could come in, like a Derrick Henry, which we still need that chip to fall. So now, even though all these running back chips fell into places, we still have a few loose pieces to figure out. So, but that's where I am with the Packers at the moment.
I agree with you. I think I don't have a ton to add. I feel like it's a situation where I really don't have a problem with Josh Jacobs on the Packers. Everything that you said about the Packers, I agree with. I'm excited about them. Just about anybody that's on that offense, I can be excited for. I think the problem from my, we have a lot of time to see how this all plays out in the ADP, in the market. My expectation, specifically because it's our little bubble, but I'm on Twitter a lot today, obviously, digesting all of this news, and I'm seeing all the people's gut takes and stuff in real time around these signings. And the first thing I saw, I'm not trying to call anybody out, so whatever, but called Josh Jacobs a top 5 running back now, landing in Green Bay. And I was like, if that's probably a little bit of a hot take, of course. I don't think he's going to be drafted as a top 5 running back. But if the sentiment is that positive about Josh Jacobs, I probably will have very little to none of him. And again, it's not because I dislike him. It's just it's going to be a price thing for me. If he comes in at a reasonable price to where the market is factoring in last year's major decline in play, like from 2022 to 2023, that was not even the same they were nowhere near the same level of player that Josh Jacobs was. And so it doesn't matter if he's on Green Bay, if he plays like he played last year. Like, it does not matter. In fact, he'll probably lose some touches if he plays like he played last year. So I need the market to give me a price where it makes sense for me to buy a player who was as bad as he was last year. And so I'll be very much price sensitive on Josh Jacobs. I'm very excited still for Emanuel Wilson, as you said. Anytime we can get a backup running back in a offense that we value very highly, which also has really highly valued running back fantasy points, right? Aaron Jones last year was awesome. AJ Dillon had a lot of expected fantasy points, not a lot of real life fantasy points, but the backfield is just really valuable. So I wouldn't be surprised if they draft someone, but I would still be happy to put some chips right now in on Emanuel Wilson as the RB2, the handcuff more so to Josh Jacobs, which I like. Aaron Jones actually becomes the interesting guy for me, I think, in this situation. I think he's going to fall, and I think he should fall a little bit, but there's also a chance he ends up in just as good of a spot, if not better, than in Green Bay. And the Green Bay spot was pretty good for him, but buddy, Dallas needs a running back. Like, the Ravens need a running back. Like, those are really good spots. There's other spots that are available that could be good spots. And so, again, also going to be monitoring Aaron Jones. But I wouldn't be so quick to just dump Aaron Jones because he got cut by the Packers. Right. Last year, he showed us he can still play some football, man. My God, down the stretch, he was as good as anybody. The playoff performance specifically was outstanding. And so
you might get a dip on him right now. This might be the best time.
If you are just playing market games and maybe you don't even love Aaron Jones, I actually think right now is probably the time that you should buy him. All right, next guy up on the list, Saquon Barkley. I know you and I think I'm gonna lose this goddamn bet. I think that we made several.
You're definitely gonna lose it now.
shows ago. But here's my counterpoint to that for those that haven't seen. Rob and I made a bet on. My bet was Saquon Barkley's, it was around like 20. He was at the 2-3 turn.
Yeah.
He was somewhere around the 2-3 turn, early third round. And Rob said he would rise by the end of, by the summer. I said he would fall. He lands on the Eagles. I'm definitely going to eat that L. That I think he's going to rise as well. But I'm not sure that he should. I think the Eagles thing is a really fascinating landing spot for a high-profile free agent like Saquon Barkley. They paid him a lot of money, which I think is a weird choice. But nonetheless, for years, multiple years now, the last 2 years, as we've been drafting Eagles running backs, you and I both, and some other people, the pushback has been, and why Miles Sanders went in like the 9th round 2 years ago, why DeAndre Swift and these guys were cheap last year, was even if you get the Eagles running back, they're not going to score any touchdowns and they're not going to catch any passes. Was the market pushback on the Eagles running back thing. And now, just because it's a new name, and I Saquon Barkley's probably a little bit better than those guys, but I don't know. DeAndre Swift was pretty good for them last year. And now I think the market is going to go, oh, no, we don't care about that anymore. We don't care about the fact that they don't throw to their running backs. We don't care about the fact that Jalen Hurts sneaks it in from the 1 or the 2 every single time. And in fact, I think people will make up reasons to believe like, oh, they're not going to do that this year, right? Jason Kelsey's retired, so we're not going to do that this year. I think the market's going to go the opposite way. And again, similar to the Josh Jacobs thing, if they gave me a good price on Saquon, dude, Miles Sanders was like my highest owned running back 2 years ago. Rashad Penny, like DeAndre Swift, Kenny Gainwell, I'll draft these guys. I just need the market to give me a right price on the risk that has played out for the last 2 years with the Eagles situation. And I don't think it's going to, because I think they're in love with Saquon Barkley. And so that's my general kind of take on that. I like Saquon. I think he's going to have a good year. I think I would be excited for him if I have him on my dynasty team or something like that. But I think we're going to get a pretty hefty price where, I'm going to probably be pretty underweight on Saquon.
I think I'm probably going to be market share at him. Like, he's probably going to be an 8% guy for me. I did look back a little bit today, and I just pulled up the numbers too for Miles Sanders 2 years ago. He still had 1,269 rushing yards and 11 touchdowns. So he still had a really good season. And I say that 2024 Saquon is probably a better player, like shooting in the dark here, than 2022 Miles Sanders. Right. So that's there. The concerning part would be the receiving yards. Do you know how many receiving yards Miles Sanders had?
Not a lot. Not a lot.
78, which feels
oh God, it's lower than I thought.
Right, like that's where we're looking real bad, and Saquon is really good in the pass game. So do they implement that more? Right, they did a little bit with DeAndre Swift. Do they find a way to do something with him there? I'm not gonna look if he's a third round guy. If he was a third round guy, I'd be severely overweight on Saquon. If he stays in the back end of the second, I'll probably be a little tick up over 8%, probably like a 12%, 13%. But where I think he's gonna go, he's going to be hard to take, because he's going to be going around that, wave of wide receivers, sort of where he was going last year, where you're like,
yeah.
But in context, do you like Saquon Barkley less than you like Jonathan Taylor this year? And if so, how close is it? Right.
It's a good question. I haven't thought about it.
They're like the same to me almost right now. Like they have similar situations. I think they're similar, like fantasy upside players. I don't want to say they're similar players, but just based on situations and what they can do in terms of production. And we're going to take Jonathan Taylor at the end of the first, early second. So I think he's fine. I think he's fine there. I just don't think that he's going to be a massive overweight position for me at the moment.
Yep. I think fine. Let's figure out the price, and let's figure out when all the deck chairs, finally get reshuffled. It's going to be really important to see what the running back landscape looks like and where the prices are dropped in. I think Nolan made a really good comment here that said Saquon is, and this is, I'm going to extrapolate this to my take on how I would approach him in our best ball portfolios. He says Saquon is either going to pay off as a first round player or like a sixth round player. And I really like that. And that I agree, because the risk things that we're talking about here are either going to come true, and he's going to be a sixth round player because he's not going to catch a bunch of passes and he's going to struggle to score some touchdowns, or the risk things are not going to come true and he's going to get a bunch of touchdowns and he's going to catch some more passes. And we know he's going to be efficient on the ground, because every Eagles running back of all time, for the last however many years has been efficient on the ground. And then that gives you a first round player. The problem is, so when this is the range, I want you to be priced ideally you would be priced closer to the sixth, because then I would get nothing but upside, right? If I draft you in the sixth and that's your floor, right? There's nuance to this, but you get what I'm saying.
Yeah.
If I draft you in the sixth and we think your floor is a sixth round player, assuming health, like it's nothing but upside. That's the dream. If your upside is the first and I draft you at the 1-2 turn, I know of course there's different levels to that too, but your floor is much, I would just rather you be closer to the sixth than closer to the first if I'm going to draft you in this kind of scenario. So it's one of the, I'm going to think some more about Saquon for sure. He's probably one of the guys I have to think the most about, I think, on this. Pretty settled in on Josh Jacobs and pretty settled in on this next guy, which I want to pass to you first. Tony Pollard. I didn't see this, but some people posted some funny messages in the Discord about some stuff they saw on Twitter from Tony Pollard takes. But Tony Pollard lands with a 3-year contract in Tennessee, which I also did not see coming at all. I think the biggest takeaway actually from this is RIP to those who were taking Tyjae Spears in like the 5th or 6th round or something. And luckily, I did not do a lot of that, even though I was very excited for Tyjae Spears. But Man, Tennessee just feels like, God, Tony Pollard couldn't get it done in Dallas as the workhorse. Is he going to get it done as like a committee back in Tennessee? I don't know, unless you have a different take than I do.
No, I'm kind of the same. I think if you are a Tajay Spears guy, this is actually good news for you, and some based on just the plummet that he's going to take in drafts and the availability of getting him multiple rounds later than you were able to get him. So I think that's what it is. I think Tony Pollard could still be fine. It's just, I would be asking more. Like, my brain when I saw this was, what is the organizational goals of the Tennessee Titans right now?
Yeah.
Right? Like, if I'm a Tennessee Titans fan, I don't understand the move overall. Like, why are we doing anything with that position? We have a guy that looks good that we can run out there with our rookie quarterback and just like kind of build around that. Why are we putting any money into this position? And also, like, I guess that's where I started looking at it, which is probably not the aspect that I should be, but sometimes that is what creeps into my head. Like, what are these teams doing? And I just don't think it's overall good for the team. I think it's fine for Tony Pollard. I don't know where he's going to get drafted. He's another guy that I'll probably grab some of, but I'm not like excited for Tony Pollard this year like I was last year. Last year, I was very excited for Tony Pollard, but we'll see. We'll see what he does. I'm still not in on this Tennessee offense as a whole. So right now it's kind of a fade with an asterisk next to it.
My expectation is similar to a lot of these running backs we've mentioned here, that the price is going to be too high for what I am willing to pay on these veteran guys. I wasn't interested in most of them before the news, and I think most of them are only going to skyrocket up. And so that's just not. We'll get to some takes maybe once we get to the draft of how we can capitalize that on that. Next
There's
up,
there's one more I want to talk about if we're not.
No. We got.
Okay.
I got a handful more.
Okay.
But I have a take that would take up too much time. We got to hit some more of these guys. DeAndre Swift. I want to hear what you think. This one is. Pardon my French. This is fucking batshit crazy.
Yeah.
The Chicago Bears with Khalil Herbert and Roschon Johnson, and the number 1 overall pick, and what I believe to be like a really exciting foundation that like they should be thinking about themselves as, like, I don't mean apples to apples, like how they play or if they're even going to be this good, but like the Lions of next year, to be like that team that's like kind of slowly gotten better, kind of slowly built up or whatever. And then poof, now they're competitive. Maybe the Lions of the year before, but whatever. Like, the playoffs are up for grabs in the NFC, dude. And you built a solid foundation on defense. You have DJ Moore. You have a bunch of assets to spend on players. You're going to probably have Caleb Williams with a rookie contract at quarterback. Like, it's exciting times for the Bears. And running back was probably the one position other than quarterback that, like, we don't need to spend money on this position. Right. Like boost everything else, like literally everything else. Boost that on this team, and they could be really well set up for next year. And that's like a little bit more of a real life take, but it's also like, we were pretty excited about Khalil Herbert and Roschon Johnson and DeAndre Swift himself as well as a potential free agent running back. Yeah. And now we just have, to me, this just screams Bears of last year again, where it's like they got 3 good running backs. They're going to probably use all 3. Maybe we ping pong some stuff around. Maybe you have a personal preference out of all of them. My first take is just like, again, we're going to play this lazy ass pricing game where it's like the market's going to put Swift first and Herbert second and Roschon third. So I'm going to take more Roschon and a little more, and it's like, but I hate that. I hate that. And obviously it also ruined a potentially really good running back situation for us.
Yeah. So for me, it was my biggest eyebrow raise of the entire day, right? I looked at it and I'm like, why are they doing this? I don't know. Maybe they think that having Swift protects Caleb a little bit better in terms of like having that check down option or something. But they got Roschon was
supposed to be.
Yeah, they got Roschon for that. So my fantasy analysis on this, after I like my head spun 13 times is I'm gonna draft some DeAndre Swift. I'm probably gonna still hammer Roshan Johnson. And I imagine that Khalil Herbert isn't on the Bears this year. I don't know how you run all three. Or I'm not drafting Khalil Herbert. He feels like the odd man out.
Which
right?
makes no sense because he's good.
Yeah, he's fine. Right? He's fine.
He's a good NFL running back, and that's why it didn't make any sense to me for them to do the Swift thing. I think, yeah, I have nothing but tilt, really. So this is just me tilting in real time. Because I drafted a bunch of Khalil Herbert and I drafted Roshan as well, and it's like frustrating because you feel like that was a good process. And I guess I should say this is a team that traded a second round pick for Chase Claypool. So I probably should have like eased off a little bit of Khalil Herbert just to be like, and they also like the Montez Sweat thing turned out to be okay, but like they could have just theoretically signed him in free agency. Like they traded away some valuable assets for guys that probably weren't the smartest thing. So then in the future using assets on a guy they probably shouldn't have done. Like maybe that's my own fault for not trusting that, but it's just like, it's crazy, man. That was the biggest head scratcher of the whole day. Any landing spot, any position.
So early too.
Yeah.
Like one of the first deals. And I was just like, what the F is going? What is this? It was just really, like you said, head scratching. I didn't understand it. I mean, it is what it is. I'll still have some Swift. Roshan John. The only good thing that comes, and I know the market game thing is like eye rolling, but if we're gonna get reduced price Roshan Johnson, then I'll take it. Like what a better 0 RB candidate than Roshan Johnson at this point. As long as everybody else closes their mouths and we're the only ones touting him. Everyone
else. A couple more, and then we will hop into this draft. From a running back perspective, Gibson goes to the Patriots. I don't want to talk a ton about that. I will say I think it's actually kind of good for Ramondre. They didn't like Antonio Gibson's whatever, but I don't think he's like dethroning anything with Ramondre. So if you like Ramondre before, I think that's pretty good.
That's my 15-second take is like when I saw that, I was like, this is actually the best news for Ramondre Stevenson because, that means that they're bringing Antonio Gibson in. They're not going to bring anyone that actually is going to push Ramondre for the work like intensely. So Ramondre might end up being one of the steals of the drafts right now.
Yep, I think so too. Austin Ekeler, you mentioned so I haven't had really a lot of time to process this. I was kind of sitting and hoping. So it signs with the Commanders. Austin Ekeler to the Commanders. So you're just getting my straight off the rip take. I don't have anything super duper strong. We were pretty into around here, or at least I was pretty into both Brian Robinson and Chris Rodriguez. I still think similar to like what your take on Roshan. If the market is going to value them, Ekeler and Brian Robinson, I will be pretty heavy on Brian Robinson. I think this coming season, we'll see how that goes. But man, maybe it's injury, right? Just like a lot of these veterans, maybe Jacobs bounces back, maybe Pollard bounces back, maybe Ekeler bounces back. But he was bad last year, Austin Ekeler, as a runner, as a receiver, he was just straight up bad. And I know he was banged up and everything. I watch him and Matt Harmon's show too before the chat comes after me for him talking about how his foot was hurt, whatever. But this is an older guy. I don't want to bet on the late career resurgence from Austin Ekeler when I have Brian Robinson as the alternative in that backfield. The thing this does, it hurts. We were drafting some Chris Rodriguez in the last round, similar to like Emanuel Wilson. And that's a pretty, it's not over for Chris Rodriguez, but he's definitely not going to be a last round, priority target anymore in the Commanders backfield. But my guess is, again, I think they'll probably overprice Ekeler. Is my current take, but again, we'll see about that. I could be wrong. I could be totally wrong, but my general assessment is a lot of these veterans are a little bit overpriced. And then I, in turn, like you said with Roshan, I'll in turn be more interested in Brian Robinson.
Well, this one in particular is like the absolute, like every red flag. It's going to probably be some form of a committee. And I don't think Ekeler gets every high value touch in this backfield, right? I think Brian Robinson actually gets a hefty amount of the high value touches within the red zone and stuff. So what is Eckler's role actually going to be? It's not going to be his past year's Chargers roles. I can't imagine it. And if he's going to get drafted, obviously he's not going to be a first rounder like years past, but he still is probably going to be too high. Eckler might be an overall fade for me this year. And I won't feel bad about being wrong about it if I were to be wrong about it. You know what I mean?
That is pretty much how I'm feeling. Like that feels like small win, big loss type of a player that I'm not super duper interested in. We should definitely talk really quickly. T. Higgins requested a trade, and we don't got to dive into that too much because who knows? Will he get traded? Will he not get traded? I don't know. But if you have been like us drafting our boy Andre Yoshivas, Charlie Jones, I think it's certainly good news. It doesn't mean it's going to happen, but you can feel more hopeful that like this was part of the thing. This was part of why we're drafting some of those guys. Is the market was really confident he would be back. We thought it was 60-40 he would be back or something like that, and this was part of the potential for him to not come back. Was him saying no, like I'm not playing on the franchise. Like that's what these players are doing now. Mm-hmm. Is that the teams have used it in the past as like we're going to control you via the franchise tag, and the players are saying no, we want the long-term deal. And I'm not playing for you. Like, you don't understand. Like, you don't get to dictate this. I get to dictate this. And that's kind of what T is doing. We'll see if it works. We'll see if it happens. But good for those guys, and potentially good for T, and potentially good for Jamar Chase too, which takes me on to, we'll talk about this one, and then we can hop into the draft. Because, I see Justin Fields. I see Russ Wilson. We'll get to all that stuff. But Kirk Cousins, to me, was maybe the biggest news of the entire day, because it impacted a lot of players. It impacted your boy Bijan Robinson, who I know you've been hammering in the first round. Kyle Pitts is my again, shocker. I know the tight end that I've been drafting the most in early drafts. Drake London, I think, has been an awesome pick, and even like down to like a Tyler Algier. I just think the Falcons, I mean, this is what we've been screaming about for years. They're like, they just need better quarterback play. They just need better quarterback play. Well, you got it now. Like it's stone cold lock. You have above average, probably well above average quarterback play. And specifically for the receivers, you have, and frankly for Bijan, at least from a receiving perspective, where he's very good as a receiver, you're getting this quarterback who, like, Kirk Cousins does not run ever. He's like the Brady, Peyton Manning, like that archetype that never ever runs. But he's very good and a very accurate passer. So this is the dream. So if Kyle Pitts and Drake London and Bijan, these guys can't do it now, maybe it is a little bit of them. But I think it's just like total wheels up for the Falcons. And it's a pretty good landing spot for Kirk Cousins if you've been drafting Kirk Cousins too.
Yeah, this is everything I wanted for this year. This actually alters my drafting most likely for this season, because now my Bijan take that I already had, that I was already acting upon, we're going to be balls to the wall, baby. We're going to hit that gas pedal. Bijan is going to, I think that this is going to be the year that I am severely overweight on upwards of 3 guys in the first round, and with 0% of guys. It's going to be a big win or big loss best ball year for me. And this is specifically one of the reasons why. It's like, now I want 20% Bijan Robinson in the first round. I want 20% Chase in the first round. I probably want, like Justin Jefferson's the other guy that I want. But Bijan in particular, I think is going to be, Corain talks about legendary upside seasons, which I think this puts Bijan in play. I talk about unicorn players, right? Like, my thing is like, is this guy a unicorn? And that includes legendary upside for the running back, but I'm looking at that from every position available. And those are usually going to be first round guys. Bijan could be the unicorn. He could be the Christian McCaffrey of years past. He has the tools to do it. Now he has the quarterback to implement those tools. Now he has a coaching staff that's probably going to lean into that. He's probably the 101. Like every other year past, he would be the 102 right now with the way we used to draft. but because we've pushed all the wide receivers up, justifiably so, he's going in an area that is mid to late, which allows us to get so many different combinations of him. And when I don't have Bijan, I definitely still want Drake London or Kyle Pitts. This is going to be a Falcon, and almost every draft is going to be a staple for me going through the 2024 drafting season. So I have 500 teams. I'm hoping almost all 500 have some form of a Falcon on it. And doesn't mean that it has to have Kirk Cousins with it. I am fine with having two with no Kirk Cousins or one often, because I think Kirk Cousins is probably going to get brought up a little bit too much to go with the players. So I'm probably going to be looking at it from, I want the skill players. I'll pass on Kirk Cousins, and I'll just take all the fantasy points through the skill position.
Yeah, I do think that's important to call out, that we're very excited for the Falcons, and it's because of what Kirk Cousins brings to the skill position players. It's not necessarily the fantasy value that Kirk Cousins himself provides. That archetype of a player, especially coming off an Achilles injury, like I think it's fair to Dog Vision says expectations are pretty high for Kirk coming off an Achilles. I agree. That's definitely high, but also he doesn't need to move around a lot to do the things that we're needing him to do. Yeah. He's get back there and hand it to Bijan, or get back there and just sling it to Pitts in London. So I don't really have a lot to add. I'm very, very excited. I'm a little more excited. This is total bias. I'm excited for Kyle Pitts because I've been dreaming. This is what we've been dreaming about for years now. And I've been drafting him through the Marcus Mariota, Desmond Ridder, Taylor Heineke era. And I'm ready to see what he can do with an actual real life quarterback. Like, even if that means holding the biggest fat L of all time, like, I would rather know. I just want to know. What was he, like you mentioned, unicorn player? Does he have that in him? Does he have the ability to be a superstar, fantasy tight end in him? Like, we keep telling ourselves that he does, and it's just the quarterbacks and Arthur Smith that are the problem. Well, Arthur Smith is gone, and he has a real quarterback now. So it's like, we're going to find out. And like I said, I'll wave that white flag. I'll hold that L if he's wrong. But I just have wanted to know. I just want to know the answer to that question. Yeah, exactly. It's Martin yelling.
Yeah, I mean, I do want to address this though. I know it's a joke from Updog saying we're martingale Atlanta, what could go wrong, but we saw the flashes from all these guys, specifically Bijan and Drake London. We've seen what they can do when provided volume, right? So it's not like pipe dream stuff. We saw the volume situation when they got it, what they were capable of. Now we're expecting them to have a quarterback and a coaching staff that allows it. So, I'm all for it. Like, this isn't going to be a sit on the fence situation for me. It's going to be I'm wheels up for Atlanta, all in.
Just a couple quick more before we get into this draft. I did want to talk. So Kirk Cousins going to Atlanta means Kirk Cousins is leaving Minnesota. You mentioned Justin Jefferson before, but it is getting pretty concerning for Minnesota. They're pretty much locked out of the top rookie quarterbacks in this class. And most of the free agents have found landing spots. Justin Fields is still available, but I don't know if that will happen or if that makes sense or anything like that. JJ McCarthy would certainly not be a very appealing quarterback for Justin Jefferson and Addison Hawkinson coming off of an injury. I do think this just everything that's kind of happened today is probably going to put Jamar Chase wide receiver 1 for me. I think I'm going to take Jamar Chase wide receiver 1 ahead of CeeDee Lamb, ahead of Tyreek Hill, and certainly ahead of Justin Jefferson. I think I'm going to put Justin Jefferson at the back of that pack. I think he's much more close with Amon-Ra St. Brown and Puka Nacua in terms of the first round wide receivers than he is with those other 3 guys, particularly Chase, because now Chase has the upside to Jesus Christ, a million targets with a healthy Burrow. But just any general thoughts on the Vikings? I know they didn't sign anybody, but they lost their point guard.
Yeah, they're losing quite a bit. It's not looking good up in Minnesota. Looks like it's a total rebuild situation incoming for them as well. I totally get. I'm Chase 1 as well, but I'm still weighing what I want to do with Jefferson. I want to be in on Jefferson. right? Because I want to be in on the player and the upside and just the pure. He's the best wide receiver in the league. Like from an overall standpoint, I think Chase can be the most dominant, but I think from an overall skill set, Justin Jefferson is still the best wide receiver. And I just want to bet on that sometimes. You know what I mean? Like you just want to make that bet occasionally. So yeah, maybe Fields. I don't know. Like it's where else does Fields go? Did you hear the rumblings of Seattle for Fields?
No, I didn't hear that. I'm just hoping that Fields, like, if the folks are in the Discord, I don't want to reiterate this, but if you weren't, I think it would just be like a borderline travesty if Justin Fields is not a starting quarterback in the NFL this year. Not because like he's whatever, he's fine, but like, did we all watch the NFL last season and watch the quarterback play that we just had to suffer through? And then like, there's reports about teams being like, yeah, the Jets didn't have, these guys couldn't play in the XFL that were out there playing for the Jets. And now the reports are like teams are interested in Sam Darnold as a starting quarterback when Justin Fields is available for probably now. The price is just plummeting. He's fucking Top Shot moments is the price of Justin Fields nowadays, which I guess those did spike recently. So maybe
I looked at my Top Shot account. Every card that I still had is worth $1. So I don't know what that is.
Yes. I don't know what Twitter's this fake pump that's happening with Top Shot. This is bullshit. Maybe somebody pumped and dumped real fast and I didn't even get to see the prices after they plummeted back again. But like, I mean, we're playing a game of musical chairs. There's only a couple of chairs left, and everyone knows that the Bears have Caleb Williams ready. Like the price is like nothing now. Like, how is it not worth it to spend a 4th round pick or whatever to acquire Justin Fields, pay him the 20 or 25 million or whatever it is this year for the one season, and like, you're probably going to win more than with fucking Sam Darnold. Like, get out of here with the Sam Darnold thing, and like. This is like we talk about in best ball all the time. It is a small miss, big win bet on like maybe Justin Fields is the future, right? I'm not sure that he is, but you spend a 4th round pick to find out. You probably win some this coming year. There's some monetary benefits to that, right? Sell more tickets, maybe you make the playoffs, whatever. And like, so he isn't. You find out, you acquire Justin Fields and he's not the answer. So you're right back where you were going to be anyway. Like Sam Darnold's not the answer, right? Jacoby Brissett's not the answer. The Raiders, and I'm kind of excited for the Raiders now, but like they paid Gardner Minshew. Like Gardner Minshew's not the future. Like what's the difference between paying Gardner Minshew 15 million versus Justin Fields 25 and a 4th round pick? Like seriously, we're gonna like pinch that many pennies over the Justin Fields thing. So anyway, I just hope he gets a job. I think Minnesota would be really fun. Then we'd really be yo-yoing back and forth on some of these 1st round wide receiver takes. But I do just think Minnesota would be fun.
Just to play devil's advocate though, if you are a team that's in on Justin Fields, why would you trade for him now? Yeah, I would let Chicago sweat it out, right? Like
that's
you let them sweat it out till the draft. You absolutely tank the price for them as much as you can because it's like you said, it's only a few landing spots right now. So if I am in on Justin Fields and it's not someone that I fully believe in, but I would take the chance on, then I let Chicago sweat as much as I can and dump that price down to the first night of the draft.
I totally agree. With that being said, I'm going to hop into this big board. Oh no! It just said my location is not. God damn it! I hate when Underdog does this. If you're trying to get in this, are you in?
I can. I'm on Underdog, so I can get in there. I got you.
I'm in. Oh,
you're in?
I'm in. We're good. We're good. Underdog does. Underdog does that sometimes. They don't know where I'm located, but all right, we filled. But. We can continue to, of course, talk through some of these and see how things are, looking for some of these other landing spots. Somebody asked about Gus Edwards. We'll get to that in a second, and then I'll get to the questions that were in the Discord as well. Let me just get this pulled up real fast. All right, cool.
Where are we
little board. We are. We got the 101.
Baby.
Are we taking Bijan 101? Is that what you want to do? Or are we taking Jamar Chase 101?
One of the two. What
do you think? Right now, after the news of today, gun to your head, who would you rather have? Obviously understanding wide receiver heavy rooms and all that kind of stuff. Jamar Chase or Bijan Robinson?
I'm just so like split on them that with the room we probably have, go Jamar Chase, but I'll still be doing Bijan at the 101 sometimes just to get that flipped exposure. But we should probably do Chase on this one.
Let's do Chase. I also wouldn't mind getting a little bit more Chase. I just haven't. I mean, 7% is like whatever. It's about at the field in the big board, but it's something I would certainly like to move up if at all possible before it becomes even more difficult to get my hands. To get my hands on Jamar Chase shares. So, Al says Fant is back with Seattle. RIP to the folks who were praying for who were trying to make fetch happen with Noah Fant again. Fetch is not going to happen with Noah Fant. That sucks. But
still more fantasy relevant than JSN.
Well, yeah, it doesn't get less. It doesn't get less. Tyler Lockett's also restructured with Seattle. So it's a tough scene. It's a tough scene for JSN. Gus Edwards. So Gus Edwards signs with the Chargers. I do think it's a relevant one to bring up. Shuby. Shuby probably has both JSN and Noah Fant bags. Shuby has a lot of bags. He's drafted like 400 NFL best ball teams already. Gus Edwards. So my initial take, it's funny. Gus Edwards signs with the Chargers, which is also just like you want to talk about something where it was the Bears thing all over again that I talked about before. Like, should I have seen this coming? Probably. Harbaugh goes to the Chargers and picks up Greg Roman. And like, what more of a Greg Roman running back than Gus Edwards? And frankly, a Harbaugh running back than Gus Edwards. Like this grinded out guy who Greg Roman has coached before with the Ravens and all that. Signs with the Chargers. I don't think at first I was like, oh, I definitely should move Gus up for this because I've just been like kind of waiting for Chargers running backs like all offseason. The big reason why I'm just like spraying and praying on rookie running backs in these contests is because I think the Chargers are a spot we want a rookie running back to land. So my natural inclination at first was like Gus is going to, get boosted up. And then I stopped and I said, like, wait a second. Specifically, how is this better than what Gus has been doing with the Ravens? And like, you could argue maybe he was a little undervalued before with the Ravens, but like, even when Gus got the job, right, Dobbins goes down, and 2 years ago, Justice Hill goes down, and Keaton Mitchell goes down. This year is like, was Gus ever really somebody you were like, oh, thank God I have Gus Edwards? Like 1 week this past year, he scored 3 touchdowns. And every other week, you were like, even if he scored a touchdown, he was borderline useless. Now he's going to be on the Chargers, who are definitely not going to be as good of a running team, or almost assuredly not going to be as good of a running team as the Ravens. So I'll move him up. He'll probably have his spot on some teams, but I'm still much more interested in what I assume will be the rookie that they draft. They're not rolling in with Josh Kelly and Isaiah Spiller alongside Gus Edwards. So I'm still mostly interested in the rookie there. Any other thoughts on the Gus thing?
No, I think it leans into your theory more than anything. I think it leans into they're definitely going to draft a rookie, and the rookie is definitely going to get opportunity in the year. It might be one of those Gus Edwards starts the first 4 games.
Yeah.
And they quickly move on from him come October when they're like, all right, we already need to see what this, player X that we drafted can do, or he's already outperforming in the limited touches that he gets. So I'd still be looking at the rookies for the Chargers overall. Personally,
I like this from my guy B Kurt. If Gus hits your lineup consistently, that team already lost. That's a pretty good way to put it, because when he's hitting your lineup, it's with like 11 points at best. Like most weeks, like I said, you'll get the one, whatever. You might get that 1 3 touchdown week. But generally speaking, even his big touch, like I think it was he had a lot more touchdowns last year than I even thought, and he was still completely irrelevant for fantasy. Now he's going to a worse spot. Like the Ravens were one of the best offenses in the NFL. It's not getting better. It's only getting worse, and he may just be the backup to this rookie. You know what I mean? Like Blake Corum could just be the starter, or whoever could just be the starter. So back on the clock in the second round. Bunch of receivers. Okay, bunch of receivers. Let's see here. Trying to see if anything stands out for me. Let's do London. I would like to do London.
Let's do London.
So we can get our Falcons thing going.
Absolutely.
But then Underdog being a little slow here for me. I don't have a super strong preference outside of London. Obviously, you know me. I like the young guys.
Mm-hmm. Oh, man, I like Rice, but I still just don't like his price point.
I think we took Tank last time, but that's who I was gonna say again. Tank Dell.
Yeah, Tank or Olave, whichever one you want to do.
Let's do Tank just because I have not that it's a huge deal, but quite a bit of Tank with. I am probably not gonna max this or whatever, and so I don't want all my Chase teams or all my London teams to also have Olave on them. So we'll just do a little minor pivot there. But I like pulling London up. I think that this whole little tier right here is pretty wide open. I mean, we just sat here and said, Olave fine, Debo fine, Evans, Pittman fine, Tank fine. So when you get into that spot, if you really like London, or you just were looking to get your London exposure up, he ain't falling. I'm going to tell you this right now. If you want to get him, like don't wait, because he's not going to fall back to you right past ADP or anything like that. He's only going to rise. So that's one of those situations I would not like overthink it and be like, oh,
London Bridge is not falling down. London Bridge has been rebuilt. It is now the pinnacle of the city of London. Everyone wants to get on this bridge to get to their destination, which is week 17. We have done it.
Week 17 Falcon stacks. You get there via the London Bridge is what we have learned today.
Do you know where the London Bridge is, by the way?
No, I do not.
It is in Lake Havasu, Arizona.
Is it really?
Yeah, it got moved. Like the city bought the one. I think it's the London Bridge. I'll have to double check that. I'll confirm some sources during the draft at some point.
Yeah, please let me know about your London Bridge sources.
I gotta make some calls.
My bridge people. I gotta call my bridge.
I gotta call the bridge people.
I gotta call my bridge guy. Hold on a second. You know, it's like the fans that are always like, I love this in fantasy football too, where it's like, oh yeah, I got a source. When somebody says they got a source, or like I've been hearing, that's my favorite. So I've been hearing this about the Atlanta Falcons. It's like, you mean like the Athletic article that's like public information that a beat reporter wrote or whatever? It's like that's your guy. Like that's Rob's bridge guy.
I just confirmed it. London Bridge is now in Lake Havasu, Arizona.
Rob's bridge guys.
Got to
Rob's
the bridge guy.
guy's last name Google.
Yes. First name Wikipedia.
Last name Jeeves. Jeeves is your bridge guy. Oh man, that's good. But let's see. Any other free agents not free agent, traded. It's funny how these things, like the T. Higgins thing, almost slipped my mind. But the Broncos have made multiple moves. The Broncos didn't technically make the Russell Wilson move. I guess they kind of did.
Oh, they definitely did.
Yeah, but it wasn't like indirectly. Russell Wilson goes to Pittsburgh from Denver. Is that like moving to me, it just feels kind of mostly net neutral. I guess like Pickett, and Rudolph were pretty bad. So I would say the ceiling maybe is a little higher with Russell Wilson there, but it's not like my median expectation isn't changing too much for the Steelers.
No, but I think it's like a great organizational move because it's costing them nothing and because the ceiling is higher. So whatever you think of Russell Wilson, this move costs the Pittsburgh Steelers nothing. They get him on a 1-year look deal. To your point earlier, there's no other like quarterbacks to bring in. They weren't in a position to draft somebody. Actually, I hate to give the Steelers credit, but it's actually a great move for them just to see what they have in other players too. So I'll take some Russell Wilson. I'm not you know, we've had the Russell discussion with the Steelers.
What about Jeudy? Jerry Jeudy goes to Cleveland. I also don't think we'll make this pick in a second, but I don't think it makes a big difference for him, but maybe for the Broncos.
Yeah. Let's make the picks. And
You know me. Oh, but I do like McLaurin also. Odunze, McLaurin, McBride, Andrews, and I like this area good. What preference?
Yeah. How about 5th round Mahomes?
Oh, I think 5th round Mahomes is whatever. That's fine.
What do you mean it's whatever? This is when the quarterbacks start to go, and then there's a drastic drop, and you're like, 5th round drop Mahomes or 7th round garbage.
What? No, stop it. Dak Prescott and Joe Burrow go. Like Joe Burrow is going. Did he go? Is he risen that much? Okay,
yeah, 71.
Okay, I'll eat my L. It's fine. We'll take Mahomes just because it's you. But what I will say is, this is a Joe Burrow at 71 versus Mahomes at 50 or whatever, 49. Like he may not come back to us, I guess, is part of the problem. If I scroll over, it would be interesting. Although we have Chase, so we maybe could have pushed it. But when we get there, let's say Joe Burrow is there at the next turn that we pick. We have McLaurin, McBride, Andrews, Reed, any of these guys, plus Burrow versus Mahomes and whoever comes available there. So I'll be interested to actually I'm not even saying what's right or wrong actually, but that's a 2v2 to think through when we get there.
Yeah, for sure. But I don't know. It's another one of those ones where we're going 0 RB as well. Clearly we haven't drafted our running back yet. Why not get a top tier elite quarterback
Joe Burrow is a top tier elite quarterback and we have Jamar Chase.
Yeah, but he's not the top tier elite quarterback.
Yeah, in fantasy, they're pretty similar. This is speaking of the Top Shot moments, this is when all the people kept buying as the whole shit was crashing all the way down. David Kitchen kept buying Darius Garland moments all the way down to $1. He just kept buying and buying and buying. This is you. But Mahomes is not actually going down. It's just the market has readjusted, and you've been buying him at the 2-3 turn, so now you get him at the 4-5, and your eyes light up.
Yeah, absolutely. But my eyes light up because of the crunch we've talked about.
Yeah.
Because the elites have fallen, but every other quarterback has risen. Like in terms of overall. So we're going to have to do a big show on the onesie positions in general. Mm-hmm. Because not just the quarterback thing, the tight end thing is really throwing me off.
Dude, tight end's even tougher.
Tight end's throwing me off a lot this year because I was punt tight end last year. Give me 3 in the last 5 rounds, and I felt great about that strategy. Mm-hmm. Felt great all year. That ain't the same this year, and that's why the context of drafting every year is different. And anyone that's going to throw you 5 to 10 years of data can eat my shit because it just doesn't matter, right? Like look at the context of drafting over the last 2 years; it's so different. So you want to start throwing out numbers at me, and maybe I'll be combative this year. But it doesn't matter when
this year.
When the things are changing this much,
you're going to be combative this year, as opposed to the past. No, the tight end thing is wild. The tight end thing is, I know you were kind of leading into it with the quarterback stuff. The tight end thing is the single most bizarre thing that we've experienced in best ball. Now we'll see if some of this changes after the draft and after all these guys land, but even I was interested in Hunter Henry and where that might land up. Womp womp, right back to New England. You know what I mean? I was kind of making fun of Noah Fant, but there was at least outs to Noah Fant being interesting back there. Mm-hmm. Nothing. We're talking about Jonnu Smith with the Dolphins, the Jatavian Sanders. I'm not particularly excited for as the rookie. Maybe we get a good spot for one of these other rookies. I do kind of like Ben Sinnott, but might be talking about a 5th round rookie in Ben Sinnott. That's not very exciting. There's not a lot of juice back there. And like you said, last year, frankly, almost since best ball has existed in the format that it does right now with Underdog, DraftKings, etc., drafters, we've had the like mid to late round tight ends where I was like, oh yeah, doesn't always mean I was right or we were right, but the market I thought was pretty frothy from, round 12 on at tight end. This year, I'm like, dude, if I don't get Njoku or Pitts or whatever, like there's like 2 guys I like in double digit rounds. Like it's tough sledding.
It gets real tough real quick, and you can just see it littered through the 4th and 6th round here, where Kelsey, McBride, Andrews, Kincaid, Kittle are all gone, and then you just see them coming all up. So it's a contention point that we're gonna have to just like dedicate some time to once free agency settles down, I think, because I think it's getting underreported to an extent. Like no one's really talking about it so much. Here and there's whispers of the great tight end apocalypse of 2024, but we need to get on our reporter hats and expose what we're seeing in these wars in drafting.
Shuby. Fucking Shuby. Every single time. Takes Kyle Pitts from us. 2 picks before we were back up. Joe Burrow is back on. I know Rob's more of a proponent of double elite quarterback, so I'd be open to it. I'd particularly be open to Brock Bowers. Speaking of the tight end thing, is there something else that's jumping out to you?
No, Burrow and Bowers sounds like a lot of fun with this team.
Let's do that.
Do something completely different in these drafts.
Yeah, this is definitely something that I don't do. I'm not much of a double elite quarterback kind of guy, but I do think it makes sense on this team. I'm comfortable with it, and I'm comfortable with 0 running back. Oh, I'm glad that just happened, because there are questions in the Discord that I wanted to get to, and a couple of them are a little bit similar. So we talked about Versaire. We talked about DeAndre Swift and some of that stuff, but Jenks asked kind of a little bit more of a macro question that I wanted to quickly touch on. But he says, not to throw cold water on a fun day. And anytime, I love when you say like, not to be that guy, like you're fucking being that guy. Like, you know what I mean? Like, not to throw cold water, but here's this big bucket of cold water that I'm throwing on here. But does the market get too excited for some of these free agent signings? And that's actually what I was thinking. Specifically because it's all running backs today. And that's something that I've been thinking about today, as everything, like I mentioned the Josh Jacobs thing that I saw on Twitter, and like people are getting excited for Pollard, and people are getting excited for Jacobs, and people are getting excited for even like Ekeler, and people are getting excited for all this stuff. And so all these running backs are moving up, and the running backs that I tend to prefer on their teams, but also other running backs are not moving up and they might be moving down. And so what is that? Just like, sirens going off for me, light bulbs going on, is like, dude, now I can just load up on those tight ends early, right? I can get 2 stud tight ends and be done. I can get 2 elite quarterbacks if I want, or certainly 1, and I can get a bunch of stud wide receivers, and I'm going to get all these valuable running backs later, because the market is diving into the latest news that's happening, and it's all freaking running backs, right? So all the running backs are moving up, and then, but a lot of these 0 running back type guys are not necessarily moving up. So I can still
actually moving down.
Yeah, they're moving down. Like it's the market is moving in my direction, like how I would like for it to move, how not only how I want to draft, but also how I think with the tight end thing, with the quarterback thing, like we know how pricey wide receivers are. I think like the market might just be wrong about this. So what I'm doing is coming back and just drafting more 0 running back teams. I know probably something people are like, what a surprise, more 0 running back. But I really do think, especially right now, it's such a good time to do so. I know you're taking want to take a big stand on Bijan, and I have no problem with that. But just from a general structural perspective, I'm leaning even more heavily into 0 running back.
Yeah. So this question was from Jenks in Discord.
Yes.
So I'll just start off by saying Josh Jenks 4 would have never thrown cold water on draft day. This is an alter ego of Jenks that he's got to be negative, first of all. That's an inside Discord joke, so make sure you're joining our Discord. Anyways, yeah, I think we overreact every year to this stuff, and this is what we were talking about with certain players. The Ekeler drop was always going to be an Ekeler drop until he signed with a team. As soon as he signed with a team, he was always going to go back up. And I don't think the drop was an overreaction. I think the rise is going to be the overreaction, right? So we overreact to free agents that stay free agents every year. And I do it just as much as anybody. Will Fuller 2 years ago, Leonard Fournette last year, right? Like these guys have to be on a team. They
Remember
have
Julio?
to play.
Remember Julio? The victory laps when Julio Jones signed were legendary.
Buddy, me and Pat Corain were on a stream together when Julio Jones signed.
Yeah, and I saw your desk rise.
The two of us victory lapped and had so much fun doing it. It was the greatest victory of all time.
Oh man!
And then Pat Corain won $2 million. I didn't win shit, and I bought him ice cream that summer. So,
oh gosh, yeah, he doesn't. None of his takes even matter from that whole summer because he won $2 million. It doesn't matter the fact that he was completely wrong about Julio and all that kind of stuff because he's rich. He's a millionaire now. But the rest of us have to eat our L's, and he gets to eat ice cream.
Yeah, it was great ice cream though. I will say that.
Yeah. This is what happened. That's for anybody that doesn't know. Al in the chat says Julio went from like borderline undrafted. Like he fell so far that he was going 17th, 18th round on Underdog. And then he signed and instantly became a 10th round, like flew up to a 10th round pick and did absolute jack shit because he was stone cold dust, like completely dust. But I think it's just I'm not saying these guys are going to do that. I'm not saying that they're dust or whatever. But that's just how the market reacts. It's just once we get the news, the market says, boom, I'm shooting you way, way up because now I can see it. Now I can see how you can succeed when in reality, like you should have seen it before and bought before and then sell when the market all decides they can see it.
Yeah, absolutely. And he was an 18th round pick at best, went to a 10th round pick on a team that he was never going to be more than the third option behind Mike Evans and Chris Godwin.
God, that was great.
Yeah, so like, yeah, it was fun. All right, so we're coming back on the clock here. We see a bunch of green on the board.
A lot of green. I still think Jaylen Warren's probably my favorite running back here, but curious your take on this. We don't want these quarterbacks.
Is this the one Pollard share you get though? Because he's so far past ADP and he's gonna rise.
I'm actually pretty comfortable with that, to be totally honest with you.
You know what I mean? Like, is this the one time you take him?
You know what? I'm also gonna be. Can I be stubborn on Brian Robinson, or should I? This is a little past ADP. He's probably gonna fall a little bit more with Ekeler, but
yeah,
he fits this team. So we get a discount Pollard when we think he's going to rise. Get a Brian Robinson, who I still like a little bit at a little bit of but he also wasn't. So we're getting a little bit of a discount on Brian Robinson. But we talk about this all the time. Okay, so we took him at 97. We don't pick again until 120. It's not like he's coming back to 120. And so if you like him just as well as James Conner or Joe Mixon or whoever, Jaylen Warren, or you're trying to get your exposure up, right? There's a ton of different things that play into whether you select him there. If he's not coming back, it absolutely does not matter. And I'm still into Brian Robinson. Like I'm very much into Brian Robinson, and I'm very squeamish on Tony Pollard, but on a zero running back team, around pick 100 is a very different, like I take a lot of players that I'm squeamish about. I notably drafted a lot of Rashad Penny last year, who was quite squeamish. I know you just tried to get me to draft AJ Dillon, and that we combined to draft the two worst running backs in the entire NFL. That was really awesome.
Just think of the first part.
And now I just drafted Tony Pollard, who was quite bad as well last year, but just price sensitivity. So we talked about with like all of these guys at the very beginning. It's like, if I get a good price, I might be interested. If I don't get a good price, I'm not interested. I mean, I think pick 100 for Pollard is reasonable. I also think he's a better fit on a zero running back team than he is on most other structures. He has more usability on these kind of teams, I think.
Yeah. Stefan saying that Chase Brown would have fit this team perfectly. I would have had no problem with Chase Brown.
Yep.
As well. Can we scroll up on the draft board? I am curious as to where Josh Jacobs went in this draft.
Let's see.
I mean, we saw Saquon go pick 20.
Saquon goes 20.
41.
41. Okay.
I don't know, man. I don't think I can do it. No. Especially when T. Higgins goes after him.
I mean,
Lamar,
yeah.
Odunze.
Waddle, Devonta Smith, Lamar, T, Kelsey, Odunze. Yeah, not like we took Mahomes soon thereafter. It's just a tough range, man. It's I'm not even really trying to be that guy that's like doing the whole shit on Josh Jacobs thing. It's just the opportunity cost is wildly high, right? We just got to this spot and Tony Pollard, Brian Robinson, Jaylen Warren, Chase Brown, like we like all of those guys. We can get multiple of them on a team like this with Odunze, T. Higgins, Travis Kelce, Patrick Mahomes, all those guys that go up there. And I just really do much prefer that 2v2. I really, really do.
Yeah, I think it's like almost splitting hairs, but not so much, where I'd be a lot more comfortable drafting Jacobs like mid-fifth on. Right? Like that's where it felt like he should be. So it's really splitting hairs, but
I know you know, and you can
Kirk,
see my mouse.
Calvin Ridley.
Like look after Mark Andrews.
Yeah.
We get Derrick Henry, Jaden Reed, Christian Kirk, George Pickens, Calvin Ridley, James. Like you put Josh Jacobs in there, and now I really start thinking about it because like none of those guys like really stand out much to me. I think a lot of those guys are just kind of lumped there because we don't know what to do. We don't know what to do with that tier, which is precisely then when I would want to take Josh Jacobs because there's no opportunity cost, right? I've probably already got, 3 or 4 wide receivers, maybe a quarterback, tight end, whatever. I think you put him in that range. And I'd actually be fairly comfortable drafting Josh Jacobs, even as someone who's not that excited. But right? It doesn't seem like that much, one round. But it makes a big difference because of who you're drafted around.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's going to be the key. If he can drop to there, then I'll probably be right about average with him. If he doesn't, then I'm probably going to be severely underweight, which is crazy sometimes when you're talking about that limited amount of picks, because I'm usually a guy that's like, get your guys. He's just not one of my guys, right? Like, so
right.
I'm not going to go get him when he's not one of my guys. So.
Yep. Totally agree. All right, coming back around. The Justin Fields fall is swift.
What do we got for wide receiver on board?
It's not great. Shaheed, Wicks. Oh, I mean, I don't have much Gabe. I'm comfortable with Gabe, Wicks, Shaheed.
Yeah.
I really like Jonathan Brooks and Zamir. You want to take a Gabe share? With me?
Let's take a Gabe share.
And then one of these running backs.
I'm not opposed to one of the running backs, but I almost feel like when we double tapped the RBs last time and we're double elite QB, that another wide receiver might.
My problem is that this wide receiver tier is just
gross. Yeah.
Pretty bad. I really like this running back tier. There's also Singletary, who I want to call out, who I think he's on Brooks or Zamir.
I think Brooks is better for this team.
Okay. Cool with that. I like Jonathan Brooks. But what I was just saying is I don't have any Gabe, so I'm cool getting a little a sprinkle of Gabe now that he's on the Jaguars. I don't think it's like from a talking free agents today. I don't have a lot to say about Gabriel Davis. I think he's Gabe Davis. I think he's on a close enough to a similar offense. It's probably net worse offense, but in terms of his expectation, I don't think it's net that much worse. If that does that make sense?
Well, he has a real quarterback now.
God damn it, you and this Josh Allen thing. He's got a quarterback who does now look like Lord Farquaad. So take that for whatever it's worth. But I think that wide receiver tier, why I don't have like much of those guys is like, look at this running back tier. Like we took Jonathan Brooks, who I really, really like. Zamir is so far unscathed, right? The notable story that happens so far. I'm not expecting him to be completely unscathed through this offseason. Like that's not my expectation.
All right.
But we've taken most of these guys off the boards. My kind of guess is we get a veteran free agent who maybe splits time with him, or a rookie, kind of backup to him, which is that's great. That's compared to these other situations where it's like all we've gotten is a bunch of crapshoots now, or you get the Bears where it's 3 freaking guys. Like, I think Zamir is one of the guys that we talk about the free agents, and we don't talk about the guys who ended up like kind of unscathed from free agency. And I did just want to call out Devin Singletary, though. All Devin Singletary does everywhere he goes is outperform everybody else in his backfield, including all these other guys that we talk ourselves into Dameon Pierce, and we talk ourselves into former Zach Moss. We talk ourselves into James Cook, and we talk ourselves into all these guys. And Devin Singletary just balls out and takes over the backfield everywhere he goes. Now he goes to a place where they don't have anybody else with the Giants. We can talk about being concerned with the Giants. I agree. I'm not going to argue that. But let me know when you can get a 11th, 12th round guy who's been as good as Devin Singletary has been, and who is almost assuredly like a lock for real work. And the Giants were not that bad 2 years ago. You know, Dayball year 1, the Giants were pretty good. So I'm moving Devin Singletary up in the rankings quite a bit.
Yeah, and I think he's just like has like sort of a stain next to his name, even though he had a good year last year where he's not going to move up enough. So I'm definitely fine with taking Devin Singletary. So I want to go back to the Zamir White thing real quick.
This got me pretty good.
And I just want to show you something real quick. So in terms of Zamir White, this is the owner of the Raiders. This guy that looks like a Southie grandmother. You think he's not going to try to go out there and make a splash at the running back position? Come on. So
he did just pay Gardner Minshew $15 million guaranteed.
Yeah. So there's that.
Gosh,
he feels like he's going to be a running back bro this year and go sign one of these dudes that's still out there.
How much longer you think Mark Davis has got? Can't be much. Like all these owners that have been around for all of our life, we're gonna be turning a new leaf here pretty soon. I feel like with all these.
Well, Al Davis had the team for most of our lives.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
You know, the thing about Mark Davis is he doesn't have any other money other than the team.
Yeah, right. Right. It's not the rest of them. Like Kroenke has so much money, you know, he's just taken his money and put it into sports teams for, you know, investment. It came from Walmart and stuff. Yeah. I mean, he also married into it, I believe, but nonetheless, it's still a little bit different. This is what's good and bad. I like Corum. I like Kendre. I clearly have liked Herbert, and I would like to not go that route. Jaleel McLaughlin, I think, is okay. We do Michael Mayer.
I think Freiermuth or Mayer make a lot of sense here.
Do you have a preference on either one of those two guys? Because I'd like to take one either.
I'm fine with either.
I prefer Mayer, so let's take him. And then I think we should do one of these running backs and then start to dig into some wide receivers again.
All right, which
Corum or Kendre, McLaughlin, or Marshawn Lloyd. I think it's Corum, honestly.
All right, let's do it.
But I mean, I'm kind of shocked. Corum rose up a ton because we all had the same line of thinking with the Chargers, and maybe the Gus thing allows us another kind of buyback period on him. If you were like me, who doesn't really like Blake Corum very much, but you were just kind of paying that tax on him because of this narrative, which I'm fully admitting is maybe stupid, probably stupid. But he's also a rookie running back, and just because I don't like him doesn't mean he's not going to be good. I'm not going to be right about all of these guys, and the market has said he is such a price. I think the Gus thing can give us a potential buying window on Blake Corum.
I think I think that the Gus thing is indicative that they're going to take a running back draft.
Agreed.
So I'm still for it.
The new Dobbins. Gus is in the Gus role, and they're going to go get the J.K. Dobbins.
Yeah. One quarterback that I do like in this back end is Baker Mayfield going in the 13th round.
Also is back, signed back with Tampa Bay.
With Tampa. So I do like that.
That felt like a lock, right? That was like a lock.
The lock of locks this year.
Of all the bullshit that happened today, At least Baker went back to the Bucs, so I could like have a sense of normalcy.
Yeah, we knew that was coming. What we didn't talk on, we brought it up, and then we didn't really like expand on it, was the Jerry Jeudy trade to
Yeah.
Cleveland. And to me, it's just like the most lateral move for Jerry Jeudy. Like it does nothing for me for him. Like, yeah, will I take him some? Maybe, I guess, but I don't think his situation's improved tremendously.
I think the problem again is I'm not going to take a lot of like heavy early running back starts. I think if you are into early running backs, and then like say you also take an elite quarterback or elite tight end or something, and you need some wide receiver firepower, still right now I'd probably take rookies, but eventually we're going to get landing spots on all these rookies and the market's going to figure it out. And I think you'll have a cheap price on Jeudy where it's like, look, I think he just sucks. I think it's almost for sure that he just sucks, but it's a very small percentage chance that Watson is better and Jeudy is like, what was that? 2020, like end of 2022, that he was pretty good down the stretch. I think it was maybe something like that with Drew Lock. I think Drew Lock was the quarterback when Jeudy was playing pretty well. Jesus, what a time to be alive. But like very certain sets of teams, I think those kind of guys could be like, look, you're willing to admit that this dude is what I like to call a waterfall. It's over. He just ain't it. He's not a good NFL football player, so don't worry about it. But there are certain types of teams where you can like take that type of that Jerry Jeudy guy. Like what was Elijah Moore last year, right? Who now Elijah Moore is banished to the shadow realm because Jerry Jeudy is there. There's very small subsets of teams, I think, where that makes sense. I do want to get your Marvin Mims. I want to get your Marvin Mims take, because that's going to be the real fallout of the Jerry Jeudy thing is people are going to be buying Marvin Mims. Are you going to be buying Marvin Mims?
I mean, depends what that rise is, because if we're looking at Marvin Mims, we're looking at him from sort of a poor man's Gabe Davis, and like we're just looking for him to hit our lineup still 2 to 3 times a year. And I think there's a capability there. We don't even know what this Denver team is right now. Like that's the problem, right? Like to answer Denver questions right now is so tough because they're getting rid of everybody. So I got to see what that fallout is. We see this Khalil Herbert fall starting to hit hard already.
Wow.
Just goes before us at 167. This feels like Jalen Polk territory for us. I know you got.
Yep, it's fine. I'm cool. I'm cool with Polk. I just want to scan the wide receivers. You know me, I'm Malik Washington. We don't have to take him again. Polk. Just want to look at running backs real quick.
Looking at like Bucky Irvin, Estime,
nothing
Mitchell, nothing
that jumps out to me. So Corley,
Malachi Corley, just based off having the ultimate villain name.
Isn't that a sick name? Like
such a good villain name.
It's not like a sick. We're taking him because of that. It's not like a sick name, and like you can tell this was like made up in a fiction book where it's like totally obscene, but it is absolutely like a Christopher Nolan like villain in a movie named Malachi Corley. Like that is a badass name.
Yeah, I enjoy it. I would be very excited to have the name Malachi Corley. So
you don't look like a Malachi Corley. I don't look like a Malachi Corley. I could not play Malachi Corley in said Christopher Nolan movie. We'll say that.
There's got to be like I don't know what accent, but an accent with a Malachi Corley. You know what I mean? Like, because I go to Bond villain. Like he sounds like a Bond villain.
That's true. He definitely does sound like a Bond villain. I was going for like a bad guy in Inception or something like that.
Same, still
like kind of same idea.
Yeah, that works too. This is where we've gotten to.
We have reached the what kind of villain does his name sound like?
We're drafting him because the name's cool.
But also he plays like a fucking Bond villain. He's like a much shittier version. People always get mad with comps. You have to make sure to say like he's not this player. He plays a little like Debo. Like get him the ball and get the hell out of. Get him that ball and get the hell out of the way. He's strong as a bull, but like not like super like he's not tall or whatever, you know, but just like get him the ball and get out of the way. And like those are my kind of dude. Like I love Deebo Samuel. Chris Godwin plays that way. Another one of my favorite players. Like just get these guys the ball. They run like, you know, the high school football player who is just like so much better than all the, you know, it's the big kid who's running, you know, and he's 6 foot 220 and all these little 140-pound high schoolers are trying to tackle him. Like I love like those dudes that do that in the NFL, and that's what Deebo does. And so I love that kind of profile.
Isn't it funny how high school football can be like that? And then you think of like when you're an adult and there's weight classes and stuff, and it's like, you know, like if the guy's a pound lighter than the other guy, they call the fight off. But in high school, they're allowing 300-pound monster kids to just truck these 120-pound Lucas motherfuckers on the court.
I was 15 playing high school football against a kid who ended up playing for the Denver Broncos and was roided out of his mind at like 315 pounds with like a goddamn six-pack. Because he was I mean, strongest dude I've ever played against at any level of football in my entire life. And I was about 145 pounds at that age in high school. And like I was a fine high school football player, but there's only so much you can do. He was more than double. He was literally more than two of me. And like you said, there's no weight classes for that. But God forbid the 30-year-old man is 5 pounds heavier than the other guy that he's fighting. You know what I mean?
I went to Gaucher High School in Mississippi in 9th grade, and football down south is crazy. If you're from the South or Midwest, you just know football's a different thing. We beat Gulfport High School that year on the varsity side where we weren't supposed to win. And then what we did down there is every week after you played the varsity, it was usually the junior varsity game against the same team. They were so mad they put their varsity team in on the junior against us as the junior varsity. So 9th grade, I'm playing against these Gulfport 12th graders, and they just wrecked us. I remember getting trucked so hard because I was playing free safety, and I came up to make a tackle on the running back, and I think I'm still seeing stars from that one.
Yep. One of my first, and then we'll get back to the draft. I'll just say one of my first football experiences was against East St. Louis in Little League. And for anybody that knows of the Midwest or the St. Louis area, East St. Louis is a tough town. Let's just say leave it at that. Very, very tough. And they're also one of the best high school football teams in the country. So naturally, their little league football teams are very, very good. And imagine me, dumbass little white kid from Southern Illinois, playing against these just badass football players. And yeah, I got destroyed. Absolutely destroyed. I don't really love Tez Walker, but he is a nice rookie available here. We do probably need some more running backs, though.
Yeah. Another thing about that Eagles fallout is I still like Kenneth Walker late because I think that they're not going to invest. Why did I say Kenneth Walker? Gainwell late.
I like that.
I mean, he's the only other back on the roster right now, I believe. And I don't think they're going to invest too much more in the position now that they've invested in Saquon.
They spent a lot of money on. I actually think that's a really good take in terms of fallout. It's kind of like what I was saying with Zamir, where the fallout is always everything about the new guy that signed and like how either he is impacted or how he impacts his new team. And even sometimes how he impacts the team that he left. But then we get these certain situations where we just like seem to forget about it, right? Like Jacobs doesn't go back to Vegas and they don't get anybody. So nobody's talking about Zamir White. Saquon goes and it's like, oh my gosh, Saquon Barkley with the Eagles. But they also, right, there's no Swift and there's no Penny. It's just Gainwell now. So now we can hate on Kenny Gainwell all that we want. And like he has been unimpressive. But if he is the backup for the Eagles, that is valuable. Like remove the name, remove last year, remove all of that shit. Because if he's getting touches as an Eagles running back, if we're willing to draft Saquon Barkley in the second round, his backup should probably not be going in the 200s.
Right. Especially when it's like not ambiguous at the moment.
Yep.
There's no ambiguity to it at all. It is Saquon. It is Kenneth Gainwell. They will bring in a third, but it could be that could just be 6th round, 7th round rookie, right?
And they spent a lot of money on Saquon. So it would make, like last year, it made sense, right? Gainwell's cheap. And then they got Penny for, Penny was absolutely nothing. and Boston Scott is absolutely nothing. And then they made Swift was cheap monetarily, but it cost some picks. But like the whole room, the running back room was like actually really, really cheap, like one of the cheaper ones in the NFL. Now, Saquon's contract was the second highest in the history of running backs. Like they paid inflation and all that. So I'm not saying it's like the second relative to the current salary cap, but they paid him a lot of money.
Right.
And so like, they got to replace Jason Kelce. They got to replace some defenders. Fletcher Cox retired yesterday or the day before. They got a lot of work to do on their team, and they spent a lot of money at running back. I don't imagine they're going to invest more resources into the backfield, like a veteran minimum.
Undrafted free agent.
Yeah, exactly.
Bring to camp, like it'll be cheap as hell. But yeah, they're loading up because I think ownership was like, we're winning this year, or we are making wholesale changes.
Yeah, Sirianni's coaching for his job, and some of these players might be playing for their jobs. They'll get traded or not re-upped if they're free agents and stuff.
Yeah, for sure. So I do like the Gainwell pick. I'll probably end up being overweight on. He'll probably be just a comfort pick by when we're getting him in the 16th, 17th round, and it's like, well, direct back up to Saquon, who, as we know, like, not to speculate on injuries, but
not exactly a picture of health,
right?
Which is also why Aaron Jones is gone from Green Bay, right? That if you just like as good as Aaron Jones still was down the stretch, if you just can't stay on the field, these teams, I mean, they should care. I'm not saying it's wrong that they care, but they also really do care about that kind of a thing.
Yeah, and another team that should be starting to go for it, Green Bay, because it looked way better than we thought they were gonna. 100%. Laughing stock at the beginning of last year.
That was just wild.
What a
change
ride.
In these. That was we talked about the Emanuel Wilson roller coaster. That's just the extension of the Green Bay Packers season. Just hard to believe. Like from boy, this is going to be ugly. The first couple of weeks, like this does not look like it's going to work with Jordan Love, to beating the ever living shit out of the Cowboys in the playoffs was an impressive ride, and frankly should have beat the 49ers. We could argue the Packers, could have made the Super Bowl. It was not completely unrealistic. Which, speaking of,
this Brissett news to New England, I don't love.
Jacoby Brissett. Somebody took Emanuel Wilson already. This is how you know it's one of our drafts. Let's do Lob, just because.
Yeah,
I want to get a non-zero number of Dylan Lob teams. I would like to probably just running back this out. I think if
sure,
Pollard 288.
Well, we're set up the onesies for sure.
Yes. Abanikanda, Rivers. Then we got a couple rookies here. Donta Foreman's still a free agent.
God, he should stay a free agent.
Yeah. Let's do Abanikanda. He has survived thus far. The backup running back
until Aaron Jones goes to the Jets.
That's what somebody posted in the Discord, and I was like, please no, please God no, please.
Aaron Rodgers just out here getting his guys, just getting ready for that backyard football game.
Yes.
I mean, if he got Randall Cobb a job, he could definitely get Aaron Jones a job.
Yeah, Aaron Jones is gone because they asked him to take a pay cut, and he didn't. Yeah, you know why they asked him to take a pay cut? Because he doesn't play a lot of football games, because he is frequently hurt and he is old. Generally the guys that are superstars and playing most of the games don't get asked to take pay cuts. That's often how it works.
The Brissett news hit, and he goes in the 18th round.
That's hilarious. So
that's the epitome of like the rise, right? Like where like just signing to a team gives people a bump.
Because he was always going to sign to a team. Jacoby Brissett was not going to be a free agent. The New England Patriots are not going to go into camp with only Jacoby Brissett and Bailey Zappi and Nathan Rourke as their three quarterbacks. They're going to draft one. okay, so maybe Jacoby Brissett starts part of this year. He could start a decent amount this year, but that was like the play all along. He could have been a bridge quarterback. Now that you know he's on New England, which is like the worst landing spot for fantasy for fantasy value because their offense is not going to be very good. For him to now come up into the 18th round is exactly what you said.
I mean, I don't love it as like a New England Patriot, quote unquote, fan. I don't love Jacoby Brissett, but it is kind of what I wanted them to do in terms of signing a veteran that can sort of play. Because I personally would rather them draft Marvin Harrison.
Like Al says, maybe the Patriots trade back and, try to get one of those, not Marvin Harrison, but can you get Odunze or somebody like that?
Yeah. I mean, that's what they need to do.
Yeah. I want to. Would you? Marvin that's Harrison what GA says. Yeah, that's what I was going to ask as a Patriots fan. I asked Bobby Gomes this the other day on Sirius. GA says, "Do the Pats take Marvin Harrison or trade the pick away?" And like, what would you prefer? Or what would you guys in the chat, if you're Patriots fans, would you take Marvin Harrison?
Yeah, I mean, Marvin Harrison, he's probably a generational talent from what we're seeing. You just grab Marvin Harrison, you worry about quarterback, because I also don't love the quarterback class as a whole. I think we've overvalued quarterbacks, specifically going back to the Trey Lance draft with Trevor Lawrence. That draft forward where we've pushed these quarterbacks up, and we've done it because of the contract, right? That's why NFL teams have done it, because they want that 5th-year option if they actually do hit on the quarterback. So that's sort of been why quarterbacks have risen so much. I mean, look back to the 1983 draft. I know we're going back a ways, people, before we were all born, but that's the greatest quarterback draft of all time. And it wasn't like they went 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. They got sprinkled throughout the first round because of different things, a different league, obviously. But point being is we're now over pushing quarterbacks because it is the most important position in sports, probably. And because of that 5th-year contract, so you're just trying to hit and hope that you hit. So you're going to raise them up to try to hit on these guys. And frankly, they're just, that position does not like produce a solid number one every year. Never mind multiples. So
yeah, never mind 5 or whatever.
Yeah. So you're hoping,
and they don't have to come from the first round. They don't have to come from the first round either. A lot of the times they don't. We have a ton, or at least certainly not the top of the first round. Like everything that you said, I totally agree with. I understand the rookie quarterback contract. I understand the 5th year, right? The advantage of the 5th year in the first round. But like we do in our best ball drafts and fantasy football and all that. Dare I say, we've jumped the shark on the quarterback thing.
Absolutely. And I think the league's going to get that after this year. I mean, I would assume, especially, and if Caleb Williams busts.
Can you imagine if this class, I do think what you said about that other class, we had some writing on the wall with Zach Wilson and Trey Lance for sure. Trevor Lawrence was kind of viewed as a slam dunk. Justin Fields was actually the one who I always all along thought was the second best actual quarterback. And we don't know exactly how good that he is, but that class kind of busting. Like Lawrence gets kind of a pass because the other guys in his class have been so bad that he looks okay. But if this class busts, like Caleb has been the home run for 3 years. We knew he was number one. Drake May for 2 years now has been we know he's going to be good. Jaden Daniels hasn't, but like emerged this year where it was like, okay, we know that he's good. And now they're pulling up McCarthy and they're pulling up Bo Nix and they're pulling up Penix and they're pulling up all these, sketchy prospects. Like if this class busts, I think, we might have a reckoning on our hands.
Yeah, we might have to start reevaluating it for NFL front offices. This is gross.
Let's see here. Can I tout another one of my guys who has
we're going back on the Evan Hull train?
Has emerged unscathed from the first day of free agency. Evan Hull. Zach Moss is not back yet. Zach Moss, an interesting name to monitor for free agency in your drafts. If you're looking to find, like, I just kind of a final note, and I will run down our team. If you're looking for some guys to like, you don't want to keep taking the same guys over and over, which is maybe I'm projecting onto other people, but I have been taking a lot of the same players in big board drafts quite frequently. If you're looking to kind of mix through some different things, this is a really good time. To do some things like we talked about before, right? If you want to, you buy dogs agree. If you want to buy a falling asset or something, like do Aaron Jones, do it now. Or if you want to,
I'll take over here. So I think he's back already.
I'm back. Sorry. If you want to buy a falling asset, it's a good time to do so. But it's also a good time to be like, oh, look, Zach Moss hasn't signed somewhere. He's definitely going to fall. So it's kind of both. He's going to fall, but also he could just land back in Indy. And like, that's a fine result for Zach Moss. He could land on the Cowboys. He could land on, one of these teams that we're not thinking. He could be the Ravens starting. Everybody keeps projecting Derrick Henry to the Ravens. What if it's Zach Moss? Like, we just don't know a lot of these things. We just went through this whole day of talking about every one of these running back signings was like WTF, but then we're so sure about the next one. And it's like, it doesn't really work that way. And so using those guys, I think, to sprinkle through and mix up some different things, I think is a pretty good strategy. All right, really quick before we get out of here, our tried and true 0 running back, but we did get the 101 and we did pull Jamar Chase up to the 101. Starting at the quarterback position, though, we went a little fun. Double elite quarterback with Patrick Mahomes and Joe Burrow. Actually took a falling Tony Pollard. I'm pretty shocked that he fell, actually, but nonetheless, took a falling Tony Pollard, my first Tony Pollard share so far this year. Brian Robinson, Jonathan Brooks, Blake Corum, Kenny Gainwell, Dylan Lobb, Izzy Abanikanda, and Evan Hall. I like that. I like that running. That's a good, fun running back room. Jamar Chase, Drake London to get in our Falcons love that we talked about earlier in the show. Tank Dell, Rome Odunze, Gabe Davis, now a Jacksonville Jaguar, and came back with some more rookies, which I also really like doing with Patrick Mahomes specifically.
Absolutely.
It works with Joe Burrow too, with T requesting a trade, but specifically with Mahomes, Jalen Polk, Malachi Corley, and Tez Walker, and then Brock Bowers and Michael Mayer to close out our tight ends. Fun team, fun conversation, lots of free agent talk, and there will be a whole lot more. But do you have anything else before we get out of here?
No, you're going to be back on Wednesday night to talk some of this fallout. I will not be here Wednesday night. I will be at AEW Dynamite. Yeah, it helps. It helps when you're, I'll say, acquaintances with, the Ocho, the Y2J.
Absolutely, that it definitely does.
Yeah.
So Rob's going to be having some fun. We will be having some fun without Rob here Wednesday night, same time, same channel, 7 p.m. Eastern. We'll be popping into another draft and probably have some more of this, probably a lot of this same conversation on Wednesday, but with some things that have happened ever since we had the show. But we appreciate you guys. Have a wonderful rest of your night, and I will see you guys on Wednesday. Peace.
Woo! Those were some spicy takes. Want to stay up to date with all of the other spicy takes we're going to have over here at Spike Week? Why don't you press that subscribe button below? You turn notifications on, we draft a team, boom, you know about it. We have another spicy take, boom, you know about it. You can be there. You can draft with us. You want to stay up to date? That's how you do it. All right, we'll catch you later next time here at Spike Week.